What if there isn't a shortcut? Just the map. I'm living in a new country every month with my fiancee who just so happened to be a travel agent. And these are the things that we actually do to save money on travel that you can use on your next adventure, no matter how you like to travel. Travel is expensive. You go online to find a cheap travel deal and all you see is ads and crazy travel hacks that you'll never use. This isn't that. Let's get right into it. Cost of living calculator. When I first started planning to live in a new country every month, I needed a way to determine how much it would actually cost me while I was there. So I used Numbeo. This website has saved me a lot of money without ever making a purchase. It's a cost comparison tool for cost of living. Place being cheap is relative. What's cheap for me might be expensive for someone else. And this tool is great for comparing your city to another. I'm originally from Ottawa, Canada, so I put that city in and compare it to, say, Split, Croatia, where I am right now. And you can see all the price comparisons, all of which are user-submitted averages, so it's constantly being updated. The one thing I do need to mention on this is that it's an overall cost comparison tool. It takes everything into account, not just travel, but cost of living. That includes cars, house prices, all of that kind of stuff. So, depending on what you plan to do and how long you plan to stay, it could throw off the overall comparison between one city and the next. But if you look at the food sections and transportation sections, it works quite well. Again, this is a general guide, not a perfect score. For example, if you look at beer here in Split, it says €2.5 for a beer. But if you're in the downtown core, it'll probably be more like €4 to €5. If you get outside the downtown core a little bit, I've got it for €2.5 easily, and I've seen it for even less. I used this tool a ton when I was planning this trip, but remember, it does have its limitations. You still need transportation to get you to the city. Which brings me to my next point, flights. I used to spend hours comparing flights and times and prices, but not so much anymore. Saving money on flights these days is insanely hard. Prices aren't as diverse as what they once were. But I do have some general tips for you. First thing is to just look at Google Flights. Everyone thinks that you need that just certain site that will pull the absolute best prices for you. But that really isn't true. They all just pull prices directly off the airline's website. And Google Flights is no different. So it almost always has the best prices. Plus, it can show you the cheapest price for every day of the month. But make sure when you do book, you book directly through the airline to save yourself any headache if you need to adjust anything later. The only way to save money on flights these days is to either go to closer destinations or go to destinations that have less obscure routes for you. For example, to get from Split, Croatia to Ottawa requires so many connections that it not only makes for a really long journey, but it drives up the price. Plus, the longer the journey, the more likely you'll need to buy airport food, which adds to the overall cost of the flight. You can also get lucky and find a mistake fare or a crazy sale. And we recently had this happen to us on a flight that we're booking for this summer, and we saved ourselves about $800. But if you're just going on a vacation, you can't count on this to happen. Third, and this isn't sponsored, a VPN might be able to save you some money. And since this isn't an ad and I don't get paid to do any of this, consider subscribing. Anyway, by changing your location, you may be able to find different prices and or might find the same flight in a more favorable currency. But remember, there are currency conversions, so you really have to do the math on this one. It's still likely to be a quite small amount, so unless you already have a VPN, it's probably not worth buying one. Some people may disagree, but there really isn't any dramatic ways to affect the price of your flight anymore. So stop wasting your time turning on incognito mode or booking exactly 3 months in advance, or any other trick really. It all is going to equal the same thing. But there is still one more thing that you can do that is within your control that can help you save money on your flights and everything else on your travels. Currency and credit cards. I think that there's still so many people that have the mindset that they need to guarantee themselves to have money on arrival. And I understand this, but see, it's not necessary to have your entire budget with you. Tons of places take credit cards nowadays. Simply grab a couple $100 worth of currency before you leave and put the rest on the credit card. I say this for 2 reasons. First one is conversion. You can save money on currency conversions by using a credit card rather than getting cash beforehand because Many currency converting businesses offer worse rates than your credit card. Plus, if you have a no foreign transaction fee credit card, it's almost guaranteed to be the cheapest.
The second reason is points. Before I quit my job and sold everything, I made sure to apply for an Amex Platinum card. And this was solely for the points and the perks. Many credit cards offer points or cash back, which in the long run will save you money. On top of that, many of them offer bonus points on travel. So like I said about booking a flight on your credit card, you could get anywhere between 1 to 4% in cash back. But see, this applies to every other purchase while you travel as well. While on your trip, you're likely to spend as much in a week as you would in a 2 to 4 week period at home. To round this out, your best option is no foreign transaction fee credit card with a great points program. But if you don't travel often, don't get a credit card that you have to pay for.
Where to stay?
I said at the beginning of this video that this is all about how you can find the best deal for you and your situation. So in this section, we'll cover a few different options: hotels, Airbnbs, and hostels.
For solo travelers, the cheapest place is always a hostel.
I personally haven't ever stayed in a hostel, and if you guys want to see a video like that of me trying a hostel for my first time, let me know in the comments and I'll consider giving it a try.
Everyone always does tell me that Hostel World is the place to look. Even if you're a couple, this may still be your cheapest option, but I know this isn't for everyone. So we're gonna move on to the next most popular option: hotels.
Here's the thing. Finding a cheap hotel is all about location and time of year, and we'll get to time of year later on in this video.
If you're using Numbeo to find a cheap place to stay, it's likely that cheap places have cheaper hotels.
Not always, but usually that's the case.
But here's the real advice: use hotels.com. I use this site as much as I can for one reason: its rewards program.
This reason's both simple and a little bit complicated, so give me a minute here to explain.
If you book with a brand like Hilton or Marriott, you can earn rewards points and status.
This is what most people will tell you to do, but I see it a little bit different than most. See, if you ever actually want to use those points, you need to continuously book with that brand to earn enough to actually cash in, meaning you don't always get the cheapest deal each night you stay.
Third-party sites pull data from many different hotels and brands, so you can always find a good rate each and every time. The reason I use hotels.com is because you earn rewards in nights instead of points. All you need to do is book 10 nights and you get one free as an average of what you've spent over the last 10 nights. And this doesn't expire as long as you book a night with them within a 12-month period.
So other people might see other programs as better, and for business travelers and frequent travelers, typically they are. But for the occasional hotel booker, I see this as the best option, and it's what I personally use.
On to Airbnb. This is what I stay in, and I find it to be the cheapest option, with a big but. It's cheap for long-term or for large groups. If you stay longer than a month, you get a huge discount.
I'm not going to get too deep into the large groups because really you have to do the math between the number of people, the number of beds, and the price, and you have to compare it to the hotels in the area and their price, and it's just a little bit too complicated, and everybody's situation is different. But if you are part of a large group, it does make sense to look into. But there is a third way that Airbnbs can be cheaper.
You can also cook your own meals, which saves tons of money on going out to eat.
There are some drawbacks to Airbnb, which I do plan on doing a video on soon. But overall, if you're traveling for a long period of time, it does make the most sense to save the most amount of money.
Phone plan.
When I was originally figuring out the budget for this adventure that I'm on, I knew that using my Canadian phone plan wouldn't be financially possible, because it was going to cost me $15 a day. I know this isn't going to be the same for everyone because Canada does have some of the most expensive phone plans in the world, but here's what I do to save money.
I use this app called Airalo. It's basically just a data plan, and you can get varying amounts of data for varying amounts of time. You could, as an alternative, just get a local SIM card, but depending on where you're traveling, this can be tricky because of the language barrier, and you have to figure out where to buy one.
In general, I like this app because it's cheaper than Canada's phone plans, and it's a lot easier than going to get a new SIM card in every country that I go to. It may not be the cheapest option, but for me, it's definitely the easiest option. I do recommend at least taking a look at it before you go and buy a Roam Like Home plan or a local SIM card. It might just save you some money.
Traveling off-season.
Before I started traveling full-time, I used to always travel off-season. That's because it's always the cheapest option. But it does only work in certain places.
Going to a beach resort off-season isn't exactly a fun vacation. It Cities like Rome, Paris, Amsterdam are all great examples of cities that you can go to on off-season and still have the exact same experience.
The only thing it doesn't save you money on is your day-to-day expenses, but flights and hotels are almost guaranteed to be cheaper.
Travel agent.
My final point seems ridiculous. Travel agents make money off me, don't they? How can they possibly save me any money? As I said in the beginning of this video, my fiancée Jessica used to be a travel agent. So trust me on this one a little bit.
They make money off of the company, not off of you. So if you're looking to book an all-inclusive resort or a tour or a cruise, it won't cost you anything extra than booking it on your own. On top of this, they'll be able to show you the cheapest options as well as the ones that are best for you.
Well, guys, these are my suggestions. I use them all the time. Like I said, they're the best ways to find the cheapest travel options for you. If you got anything out of this video, please subscribe. Until next time, we'll see ya.